Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. For those new here, my name's Nikki. I'm an author and editor and I post videos here on YouTube about writing, editing, reading and all the things I love. Today we're here because it's practically the end of the month and it's time to wrap up the film and TV I've been watching during November. It's been another, I would say slow month in a way because I've been doing a major rewatch again, which I will mention at the end. I did get to the cinema twice. There were a couple of other films I would have liked to have seen as well, but money and time just didn't work out, so these are the two I actually managed to get to. First up, Boy Erased, and this was a 4-star for me, and it's a really thoughtful and thought-provoking film. For those who aren't familiar, it's about a boy, it's a real-life story, about a boy whose pastor father sends him to a conversion therapy camp when he discovers he's gay. What I thought was excellent about this film was the balance it struck. I mean, obviously it's showing you some of the terrible things that go on in these places, but at the same time it wasn't saying all Christians are tarred with the same brush. It was a fairly, it was a decent portrayal, I think. I think it was fair to the parents. It was kind of showing you where they were coming from, even if we don't agree with that and their decision. But it also showed you, of course, things from the young boy's point of view as he struggled to come to terms with his sexuality and also come to terms with what was going on in this place. So it was a beautifully acted film, amazing performance from all the cast and very carefully and considerately put together. Next up, The Crimes of Grindelwald, the second film in the Fantastic Beasts series. This was a 3.5 stars for me. I adored the first film. It was one of those that I went into without major expectations, but I came out having really loved it with a huge smile on my face. Therefore my expectations were a little bit higher for this one, and perhaps that was a problem. In some ways it was still good. I mean, the special effects look great, all the little references to Harry Potter stuff are brilliant for the fans. Casting Jude Law as Dumbledore, absolutely inspired. I mean, I'm a huge Jude Law fan anyway, but I do think he's going to be great in this role and I hope they give him a little bit more to do in the future 3 films that I believe are still coming. In particular, I'd like to see more of his relationship with Grindelwald, because it's kind of hinted at in this first film, but they're not overt about saying exactly what it is, and I kind of would like to explore that a little bit more. Where this film fell down for me, though, was the cast members, in terms of their numbers. We've got all the people back from the original film, with a load of new people added in. There were so many different storylines going on, and it wasn't a problem keeping up with them. I mean, there was no difficulty knowing what was happening. It's just that you were spread so thin and constantly swapping and changing between all these different characters that it didn't really give you a chance to get to know any of them very well. And I thought that you kind of lost a bit of emotional depth that you did get as you got to know Newt in the first film. The new creatures are brilliant, of course. It's awesome to have the Niffler back. We love the Niffler. But I do adore the new Chinese dragon as well. So 3.5 stars. It was entertaining, it was good, but I just think it had a few problems. Queenie was another problem too, actually. Her character completely changed from how she was in the first film, which was a little bit jarring. And that's my phone. I'll ignore it for a minute, don't worry. Moving on, I saw a few films on Netflix. Now, these are not films I chose. My husband was allowed control of the remote control for the night. Yes, indeed. It's a rare event because he has awful taste in films. Really terrible. But I let him pick some. So, first off, we watched Extinction. This was a sci-fi piece which ostensibly the premise is about a group of people who are being attacked by aliens. What I did enjoy about this film was the twist, and I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to spoiler it, but there was a really clever, interesting twist partway through that I didn't see coming, and that kind of made the film for me. In all other respects, in terms of acting, effects, and that, it was all fine. It wasn't mind-blowing, it was just average, but that twist kind of gave it a little something extra that worked. So this was about a 3-star watch for me. Next up was The Forest. Now this one appears to be a kind of take on Japanese horror films. I think it's just inspired by rather than a direct adaptation, but I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't quote me on that point. And it's about a girl whose twin has gone missing in a forest that's known for suicides and in which bad spirits apparently dwell. So it kind of mixes horror and psychological thriller as she travels to Japan and goes to this forest trying to locate her missing sister. And again, I'm not going to say any more just because I don't want to spoiler it. It was pretty average. It wasn't appalling, it was watchable, but nothing about it really struck me. It's pretty 2.5 stars for me. I also watched a couple that I was able to come across copies of on YouTube. And this was Kiss of the Spider Woman, first of all, the 1985 film with William Hurt. For those who don't know this story, it's about two men who were in prison together in 1970s in Argentina. One's a political activist and the other is a gay window dresser. The window dresser, Molina, enjoys the cinema, so he helps pass the time for him and Valentin, his cellmate, by relating some of his movies. The two initially don't get on, or certainly not from Valentin's point of view, but they do form a bond as the movie progresses. And again, I don't want to spoil what happens at the ending, so I'm not going to say any more, but it is a really brilliant piece. I mean, beautiful acting, particularly William Hurt is awesome in this, so do check it out. Finally, I also found on YouTube, just randomly, because I was looking up the musical of Kiss of the Spider Woman actually, and its main actor Brent Carver, and I found this little copy on YouTube of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which is a TV movie that Brent Carver made in the late 90s, and in which he played Ichabod Crane. Now, for those who are only familiar with the Johnny Depp version, that is not really a very true representation of the original story. It's a great movie in its way, but this one is a more faithful adaptation of the original material, so it's not quite as paranormal or horrific as the Johnny Depp version. But Brent Carver, I mean, he is an amazing actor in everything, and he is perfectly cast here as Ichabod Crane. So this was probably a good four stars for me. Perhaps I should have said Kiss of the Spider Woman, probably 4.5 stars for that one for me. So those are all the films. Let me move on to the TV. I've only really got 2 series to discuss. The first of those was series 2 of Castlevania, and it's taken me a while to get to this one, but it's a nice continuation of the first series. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of great emotional depth to the characters, but it's still an enjoyable little story, and I liked seeing how they wound up the Dracula plotline, and the ending kind of leaves it open that they could do another series, like taking the characters off on a different adventure, or it could end, so I'm not sure which way they're going with that yet, but it was enjoyable. Probably about 3.5 stars for me. And House of Cards season 6, so the final season and the only one without Kevin Spacey. I can understand why they took Kevin Spacey off the show. However, I think it made things difficult for them because all the cast have always been brilliant all the way through, but Kevin Spacey in some ways made that show. His presence on the screen as Frank really brought that show to life. And all the rest of the cast have been absolutely brilliant in this final season. I mean, I do love Doug Stamper. I've loved him all the way through, and he's great in this series as well again as a character. But it just didn't quite have the magic of the previous series for me. I think it was a good way to end it. The ending was slightly bizarre in a few ways, but it did at least give it a bit of a conclusion. So what has been taking up all my time? I've actually been doing a rewatch of Being Human. And for the Americans among you, this is the UK version, not the US version. I've tried to watch the US version and I just can't get into it. I think the UK version absolutely nailed it, and the US one didn't quite hit the mark. But the UK version ran for 5 series. Aidan Turner was initially the vampire character. He played Mitchell, who I adore. And then, who's the actor? I think is it Damien Mooney? I'll double check that, but who played Hal in the final 2 series after Mitchell left. I love this show. I think it combines this kind of flat apartment sharing drama with a paranormal goings on, and it just worked so brilliantly. The cast was spot on, absolutely excellent, and the script writing was brilliant. So if you haven't seen it, or if you've only seen the US version, do check out the UK version. I mean, I think it's 5 stars for me. It's a wonderful show and I can rewatch it again and again and never get bored. So that was my November. I'll be back at the end of December to tell you what I've been watching during the coming weeks, or what will then be the past weeks. But I will end there for now. I will see you all again very soon. Bye for now, everyone.